This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. A little early Thanksgiving well wishes to you. I hope that you have a good one later this week.
And
so
to you.
You're going to take some time off, and are you still got column deadlines?
Yeah, a holiday week really is not a break for me. I just have to, my crunch time on getting more columns done in order to take the time off. But one of my favorite days of the year is Friday after Thanksgiving, because it's just a lazy day, a free day, if you've done all your work. And there used to be good football.
Well, I was about
but
to
now
say,
it's like,
are you going to take the day off from tweeting about Razorback football on the Friday after?
Probably not. I enjoy it too much. The perverse pleasure is too great. That's part of the fun of the day.
Let us talk politics. I want to begin local, and we'll work our way up the food chain there. Let's talk about the Little Rock mayor's race. You wrote a column recently that suggested comfort or connection.
Right.
Give us the gist of what you were talking about in that column.
I think the themes of the runoff combatants, not necessarily how they phrase them, but how I catch it, is that Baker Kurris, very competent, accomplished businessman and public servant of decades, appeals largely in West Little Rock and in the Heights, if you look at how he ran the first time around. Those are people who are comfortable, who may want some change, but they don't want stark or change. So I think that's sort of his base. If you're comfortable with the city, you favor him. Scott comes from Southwest Little Rock. He comes from south of 630. He's African American. He represents those who are disadvantaged and disconnected. And his vote in those areas was quite impressive. And I think he talks about unity. I see it as he's offering to the disconnected a connection, and Kurris is offering to the comfortable a comfortable vote. Now, Kurris doesn't like that construction. I mean, he'd like to be for everybody. And Scott doesn't embrace it either. He talks about unity. He wants to be not just the black mayor of Little Rock, but the mayor of all of Little Rock. But at its core, that's sort of, I'm not making, and the phrasing is designed to talk about what people are seeking from these candidacies, not catch it just as race, but in what people in certain neighborhoods, in certain sections are looking for. And I think I thought it's a pretty good construction. Yep. And that's, and I'm gonna stick with it.
That runoff election is December 4th. Do you have any kind of prediction as to what you might expect to happen? It's about turnout, really, isn't it? Or is it about the swing vote of Saban supporters and where they splinter?
Roby, one of the things you force me to do occasionally is simply tell you the truth. I always tell you the truth, but tell you an uncomfortable truth. I
appreciate that you don't sugarcoat it.
I don't know. I do not know. We've never had a mayor's race like this. We've had for most of the last decade, all the time I've been covering politics, Little Rock mayor was a ceremonial job passed around among invisible city directors. This time, we have people of substance running for it. We have a great deal of public attention. I think Little Rock is fascinated with this thing. I couldn't have told you how the first race was going to turn out. You did a poll, it was 22-22-18, which I thought, it's just, who knows?
Yeah, the third undecided.
Yeah, and then the vote was sort of like what I thought, except the guy I thought might be in the top two was narrowly third, and Frank Scott got a bigger plurality than I thought. And who goes back to the polls? And West Little Rock, South and East Little Rock, and who gets that Midtown section where I live, where Saban ran up big? Who gets it? Is it as simple as that? I don't know. I think people will be inclined to turn out in good numbers again. But I went to Baker Kurris' function last evening, and he said that he had been campaigning that day, and people door to door, and people said, "What are you talking about? I voted for you already." You know, so. We don't have any basis for making a sound prediction. My gut instinct is that look out for Frank Scott. Mm-hmm. He's got an inspiring message, and inspiring messages, and the better politicians. And he is a very good politician, whereas Kurris is more more a technician and a competent type. I'm not predicting, I'm just saying.
I'm going to put you down in
Watch
the
out.
I don't know category.
I don't know, but maybe Frank Scott, okay? That's what we're going with.
That's too big of a hedge.
All right.
Because you could say, I don't know, but maybe Baker Curse, too.
But I didn't.
Yeah. Let's work our way up to the state capitol. This past week, a lot of activity from Governor Hutchinson,
right.
Pre-legislative session. Let's talk about what you think will be on the forefront of the legislative session. The governor's going to do tax cuts. He's going to reorganize government. There's going to be some talk of a highway plan. We'll have our annual to biannual or biennial Arkansas Works debate, I think. Is there anything bigger than that that you think is going to dominate this next legislative session?
Well, I mean, we've been doing this a long time, and we look at the policy and substantive issues, and we know that they're coming. But then inevitably, we get bogged down in some social, cultural, religious issue, and that takes a lot of our attention. And something like that will happen.
Unlikely to be guns on campus.
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. But in the broad sense, you've outlined what the big issues are. Cutting taxes. And this is the time where Asa is going to cut them at the top margins.
So he's done a low income and a middle income tax cut.
There is no way in the world that Republican legislators are not going to oblige a governor wanting to cut taxes at the top rates and send a lot of money to the well-to-do. It's what Republicans do. They apparently believe in it, or it works for them, and they do it.
They deserve some credit. Asa deserves some credit for doing those two other tax breaks.
And I gave him credit then. This is now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's done it systematically. He's waited until tax relief was granted at lower incomes before he did what he was inevitably going to do. I'm just telling you, it's not a big issue. It's a fait accompli.
Yeah.
Now, the highway thing. See, this is tricky. Arkansas's infrastructure is lacking. Our revenue stream for highways is insufficient. It has been, and we keep putting it off, but I believe the governor is saying, and I think some legislators are saying, it's time we did something. Now, you had the governor tell you on your show yesterday, I think, that whatever they come up with, he wants to refer it to the voters.
Yes.
Which gives everybody an out. You know, even though the Koch brothers group and the conduit, they don't like even giving the people a chance. I think that gives everybody an opportunity to vote for it.
I don't think the courage is there, but I have talked to some legislators that have said, look, we got to do this. Let's put it out there, let's vote on it as legislators and send it to the governor to sign. That's what they elected us to do, and we've got a super majority to do it. We don't need to refer this to
I agree with that. I'm just telling you, there's no way these guys are going to vote to raise any kind of taxes. Looking at being primaried in 2 years in a state that is redder than red, I'm not going to do it without submitting it to a vote of the people. But that makes it a little less tough issue for them when they do it. It's the particulars, because this is a tough policy decision. Where do you propose to get the money?
Yeah.
And
that half-cent sales tax that is locked in for the current program that I think ends in 2023 is not enough to make up what is still hundreds of millions of dollars difference. They're going to have to do more.
And the two obvious things are the things that you and the governor talked about yesterday. One is begin phasing in a share of general revenue, meaning sales taxes on items having to do with cars. Been talked about a long time. He said, we can't do that. Well, you could. But the first, I mean, diverting money like that from general revenue is a simple appropriation out of the general revenue budget. So is a tax cut. A tax cut is we're going to take $100-some-odd million out of general revenue, and we're not going to spend it on a program. We're going to send it back to people at home. Mm-hmm. But it's an appropriation, essentially. You could make a policy decision not to cut the taxes, but to begin an incremental, cautious phase-in of some measure of general revenue for highways. But the governor's position is, I think, stated to you yesterday, we can't do that. One, we got to cut the income taxes That's important to me.
And he's made that promise.
And two, then if you, we have enough growth that I can do that, and he's fortunate that way. I can do that and still give teachers salaries and not have any pain, a horrible pain in the budget. But we can't then divert more out, for highways, and we're going to have to look at things like the gas and the diesel fuel tax. I put on Twitter, that's a shell game at the Shell station. Basically, I mean, you're basically saying, well, we're going to give some, we can't give any, we're going to give a break over here, and it's going to go inordinately to high incomes this time, it just is. But you folks needing to gas up to go to work, we're going to charge you more. It's just, it is a shell game. Where's the money? And it's a hard call, but that's the issue we're going to have. But it is time to do something. And I like a variable gas tax, which is based on the price. You know, some of it's based on per gallon, on a usage, on a quantity, and the rest varies according to the price. But I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Anyway, it's part of the discussion.
I was with a group of contractors at their association annual meeting right after the election, as a matter of fact, day after, and I suggested that it may take a major disaster to snap some folks into action.
You mean a bridge collapsing or something?
Something terrible like that. I would not wish that to happen, but that might be the type of catalyst that
so
finally
you're
gets things
thinking the
moving.
mood is not
and there
as
was
strong.
a lot of head nodding in that room that unfortunately that may be what it takes to get people's attention. But I do think there's a lot of conversation going on. I can tell you from...
So you're thinking the mood is not clear. The sentiment is not clear to do it. Absent
I don't think a plan beyond the half-cent sales tax re-up is. I think there's a lot of little things on the table, but I don't think there's any consensus.
Well, I don't either. But I think they can get it. We were talking about the session too. Are we done with that, or the Arkansas Works?
You got one more. Yeah, I'll give you one more.
Because you brought up Arkansas Works.
Let's talk about it. So, the governor says that they're not seeing a spike in uncompensated care at this point in time. That a lot of these people on the rolls that are moving off of Arkansas Works are moving into higher incomes or finding insurance, or we just don't know anything about them. They've moved out of state and they haven't left us any contact information. Why is that a bad policy if it may be actually getting people off of Arkansas Works and into private health insurance?
Roby, if we want to do an inventory of the Medicaid expansion population, if we want to go account for all of them, and are they really there? And can we, after 6 months of searching, are there some we cannot find anymore who just are, then if we want to do an inventory and say, based on the fact that we do not believe you are out there using the program or anymore, we're going to remove from the list, because that's important. The governor is right. The way we do this private option, or Arkansas Works, it's not fee for services. We don't pay when you go get medical care. We're paying premiums for you every month. So it's fair to do an inventory. To do an inventory under the guise of a work requirement, which is nothing but a computer click requirement, when most people are exempt from it, and then to say, well, we're going to kick 12,000 people off, but we don't know who they are. But since no hospital has reported any great increase in uncompensated care, we're going to assume they've all moved to Missouri or found great work, or they just don't care. Well, that's no work requirement. That's a computer click requirement. Two, that's no responsible way to do an inventory. The thrust of an inventory and an efficient program should be to find people and remove them if they're not there, not to go through this charade of a work requirement. Beyond that, Roby, a federal judge in D.C. is probably, in the first quarter of next year, going to throw this thing out.
That will spice up the legislative session
significantly. It has been sued. It is enough like the Kentucky plan that which was thrown out, that's likelier than not to be the judge's ruling. Medicaid law, which the Republicans tried to change but couldn't, says the purpose of Medicaid is to expand health care. The argument of the suit is you states like Arkansas, and Arkansas is the first to do it, who are saying you got to jump through these work hoops to get health insurance. That's not expanding it. And the suit is against the Trump administration. They don't have the authority to do it that way. So let's say that next year, on or about March, a federal judge throws out our work requirement, and the governor has already said in a debate, he didn't mean to say it so clearly perhaps, this work requirement is the only way we can save the whole program. And let's say this thing gets thrown out and the legislators get real mad at these liberal federal judges in D.C. at the very time the governor's trying to pass the 3/4 appropriation to continue Arkansas Works. That's the fight I'm looking for, not hoping for, but thinking could very well happen. The Arkansas legislative position seems to be, the governor is saying there is a legislative position that if you don't let me kick around these 12,000, I'm not even going to serve these 250,000. That's how I phrase it.
Or
so,
perhaps by that time you've had another several thousand that have been taken off the rolls, and it has shrunk to the point that the legislature would say, all right,
or get this, at the end of the year, people can start reapplying.
Yeah.
So
we'll see what happens on that. That'll be curious to see.
Yeah, we'll come back to that conclusion. We'll see what happens. I'm just telling you that the collision course between the lawsuit against the very concept and the fact that in Arkansas our conservative legislators embrace the concept as a reason to embrace the program, they're headed toward each other on or about March. So let's see.
A Titanic and an iceberg.
Maybe. Or the other thing the governor could do would be pass the 3/4 appropriation early.
And that may happen too.
We'll see, but it's all most.
I'm going to put down your prediction on that as I don't know.
Well, you know.
I'm kidding.
No, I'm just telling you.
There's some interesting scenarios.
That's why we get up every day, because we don't know, but we know what to look for.
Yep.
And I'm telling you what to look for.
Thank you, John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always good to be with you.
My pleasure.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, you too, buddy. That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.